In this short episode, I'd like to talk about traceability in a complex industry. More specifically, I'm going to focus on conflict minerals compliance. So for the past decade, the armed conflicts and oppression in the Democratic Republic of Congo have made it increasingly publicized, and by 2012, the U.S. government mandated the adoption of the conflict minerals rule, and placing suppliers under a microscope to ensure that full end-to-end compliance in every industry is complete. The increasing interest in conflict minerals has more recently begun impacting the apparel and footwear industry due to heightened expectations from stakeholders, consumers, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Companies are beginning to feel the pressure, forcing many to modify the ways to do business with their suppliers. Currently, the conflict minerals in the countries of interest are those that are shown on this image. The countries are the Democratic Republic of Congo and the surrounding countries in South and Eastern Africa. And those minerals that are considered conflict minerals under the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010 are tantalum, tin, tungsten, and gold. And they're referred to as 3TGs for brevity. So where do these conflict minerals really appear in apparel and footwear? Well, tin is the most prevalent. It can appear in metallized fabrics, as solder or composite materials in zippers, buttons, fasteners, and other metal components. Tin salt is also used as a coating to make zippers and fasteners and to make the metal shiny. And it could be a composite material in rivets, eye laces, drawstrings, and shoelace grommets. But more so for the footwear industry, tanning, in the tanning process, tin is often used. So it appears in leather at times as trace minerals. Now, gold can appear as plating to make zippers and other metal fasteners or metal components, or make them shiny, or in metallized yarns. Now, when it comes to tantalum and tungsten, organizations have yet to determine where tungsten and tantalum can appear in footwear and related products. But tungsten normally does appear in some high-end dyes, but it's found that those dyes typically aren't used in apparel, footwear, and related products. Now, the law, part of the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act, was intended to choke off financing for violent militia groups in and around the Democratic Republic of Congo. And these militia groups sell minerals used in products ranging from smartphones to engagement rings to shoes and boots and apparel. But the measure's been under continuous assault from various business groups which really consider the whole due diligence process to be burdensome. But ultimately, what happened in the first year of reporting this year in 2014 was summarized in this quote: "When I did math in school, I had to do the work and show the answer. What's happened now is companies have to show their work and not their answer." So what this quote from an industry publication is really saying is that the due diligence is the strongest exercise for the conflict minerals rule, rather than what the answer is. When the SEC first put in place the regulation, they had the expectation that conflict minerals reports would cost companies a total of anywhere between $3 billion to $4 billion in the first year, but that number would drop to about $200 to $6 million in following years. And companies were expected to spend about 480 hours on average to complete a conflict minerals report. And they compared that to the 2,000 hours that a corporate annual report takes to actually publish. So they were trying to minimize what the cost and the time labor was for individual companies. But still, there's been a collective shoulder shrugging that has many people wondering what lies ahead as the Dodd-Frank Act requirements transition into routine supply chain due diligence documentation. And there's a number of challenges the industry still faces regarding this topic. But how did the industry do in 2014 during their first report? Well, apparel and footwear brands are still hesitant to take so much action on the subject in light of the fact that many companies are unsure as to whether it applies to their operations and products, and how to demand these actionable requirements from their supplier network. Oftentimes, brands and retailers question how are they going to enforce this rule on their suppliers, but more importantly, what the cost will be to educate the severity of this rule down the line. And complete and thorough accountability is really complex, calling for brands to track information gathered from their suppliers and suppliers and all the way down to the end-tier level. Now, while there's uncertainty around the legalese of the rule and the consequences faced by those who don't adhere to the requirements, the truth is noncompliance goes against the global initiative to successfully reduce conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the surrounding nations. And this ultimately can be damaging to the brand's integrity, which takes so many years to build. More so, there are typically 7 layers or more that lie between the mine and the consumer, and each of these layers need to be examined to determine if conflict minerals appear or are evident. So from the mine, it moves on to possibly the minerals trader, which then moves on to the smelter, which does the meltdown, and the component supplier buys from the smelter. The material suppliers then buy from those component suppliers, and the factories that are making the finished goods are buying from the material suppliers. And of course, the consumer turns out to be the end user. So examining all of these layers just adds to the complexity of the rule. Furthermore, if you were to conduct a simple flow chart of how to report and do the due diligence surveys that are required, it could look something like this highly complex flow chart. But what's happened is we've reacted to the industry with new and innovative tools that have been developed to ease the processes that help brands, retailers, and suppliers to remain compliant with the SEC and other government regulations. Doesn't just include conflict minerals, but we'll focus on conflict minerals for today. So EC Vision's Conflict Minerals Compliance Platform, or CMC, is integrated seamlessly with EC Vision Community. EC Vision Community is a free online portal that allows brands and retailers to connect with a global network of retail professionals from every level of the supply chain. And with this platform, you get access to the people, news, updates, and insight that help you be better at what you do best, and that's manufacture goods for the marketplace. Now, the Conflict Minerals Compliance Platform allows brands to collaborate with their suppliers to track all materials, including whether or not products contain the 3 TGs, or it could apply to conflict restricted substances like the California Green Chemistry Rules. This platform allows for the brands to map out their suppliers along with storing necessary data records. And with the Conflict Minerals Compliance Platform, suppliers have access to the Conflict-Free Sourcing Initiative, or CFSI document, which can be downloaded, shared, and submitted directly back to the brands through the portal. Once your suppliers have registered, brands and retailers have access to the reports that show all of the pending and or completed form submissions, but more importantly, provide the retailer with a list of their global suppliers' ratings based on their compliance with standards and regulations. So with CMC, EC Vision is now providing brands and their suppliers with the opportunity to drive sourcing in the right direction and ultimately dig out all of the conflict minerals from their supply chain, and then submit their reports to the Security Exchange Commission. So this is a more detailed workflow, but I'm going to go into each of the 3 areas of the Conflict Minerals Compliance Platform. I'm going to start with supplier onboarding. And this simple process starts where suppliers that aren't already on EC Vision can come in, be invited, and register for a free profile. The supplier receives the invitation from the brand or multiple brands to join EC Vision Community and also the Conflict Minerals application. Once they click the link in the invitation, the supplier agrees to the terms of service regarding the storage of their company information which they supply. They then forward it on to complete a user profile and a company profile. The user confirms their user registration, and then they move on to complete a company profile if one hasn't been completed already. Within the company profile, the supplier can provide as much or as little information as they desire. And once it's been confirmed, one individual is designated as the administrator for each company profile. So there can be multiple users at one company level, especially if a company is doing sourcing with a lot of different brands. The supplier then confirms use of the conflict minerals compliance application, and then they're linked to each brand that has invited them. This means that multiple brands could be working with one supplier, but the supplier only has to upload their CFSI reporting template at one time to the multiple brands. As a brand, you can review your supplier list and the status of each of their onboarding. So you can look at all of the invitations that have been sent, see if your suppliers have registered, and if their invitations have been complete. So that finishes out the supplier onboarding process. Next, we'll look at some of the conflict minerals compliance operations. So the most current CFSI standard reporting template is housed in the app. Suppliers can download the form and work offline to make their declarations. Declarations can be made at company or product level. Smelter information is all housed within the CFSI template form. And if a supplier is working with multiple brands, they may want to create two separate templates and share them separately. The supplier then uploads the report and shares with brands or multiple brands very simply using the portal. And the brands can then view the progress report of all of their supplier submissions. So there's various details within the workflow. In this report, we see that 24 reports have been submitted, 3 are waiting to be approved, 1 has been acknowledged, and so on. When you look at the details of the submission workflow, we lay it out this way. So for instance, a report that's been uploaded that's waiting to be processed is marked as submitted. When the report is invalid for some reason, it hasn't been complete, the system will automatically kick out that report. But otherwise, if they're waiting to be approved, the brand has visibility into that, and then they can move ahead to review each of the CFSI reports from their suppliers. It then moves into the way that it can be acknowledged, accepted, rejected, or canceled. So that's the basis of reporting and due diligence. The last piece is the analytical status reports. So if we logged in and looked at the reports dashboard from a brand point of view, we can see that we have 5 dashboards laid out on the screen. And the main dashboard at the top showing us a declaration scope. So the declaration scope is similar for all suppliers, and if I were to log in as a supplier, I would see only my declarations. Right now, we see that no declarations have been made, but 61 reports are pending review. You can also look and see that 121 reports have been uploaded, and the brand has access to see how many companies have been invited and how many have engaged in profile discussions. From the supplier point of view, I don't see the invitation portion. Again, I only see the declaration scope that pertains to me. And last, we can drill down into declaration status reports as a brand. We can see that my supplier's overall submissions declaration by scope or class. And within each of these specific reports, they can be changed to bar charts or graphs or pie charts. They can also be reloaded for real-time access, saved and exported as a PDF. You can see this report is a pie chart showing the DRC conflict-free submissions and the number that are of reports that are showing clean and free, or I can look at that same in a bar chart. What's nice about the tool is that I can drill down into each of these reports and look at the specific information in a Excel-like form. This can be exported and shared with the other departments within your organization that are required to do the reporting. So in summary, the conflict minerals compliance operations and process is very simple. First, for suppliers, they're invited to build a company profile on ECVision Community and to link to a brand in the ECVision Conflict Minerals tool. Download and complete the CFSI template. They can then upload and share to brands or multiple brands and receive notice of acknowledgement, whether it's approved, rejected, or requires further due diligence. As a brand, you can invite an unlimited number of suppliers, and there's no additional cost for suppliers' use or licenses of the platform. You can request them to download and complete the CFSI template form, and then review their submissions and request that suppliers take additional actions if you need more information on their templates. So the Conflict Minerals Compliance platform that we've launched allows brands and retailers to have seamless access to the supplier network and can initiate a request for information within this portal instead of using email. And that in turn simplifies the due diligence reporting process while increasing supply chain traceability. And beyond shining a spotlight on the role of the minerals in everyday goods, the Dodd-Frank Act legislation seems to be having an impact on the ground. According to a report this year from the Enough Project, an anti-genocide project of the Washington, D.C.-based Center for American Progress, they're saying that it's becoming less economically viable to fund armed groups in the DRC and surrounding countries from minerals like 3TGs. And in the eastern Congo, minerals were previously major sources of revenue for armed groups that generated an estimated of $185 million per year for their armies. And now that has been greatly diminished. If you're interested in learning more about ECVision Conflict Minerals Compliance Platform for supply chain traceability, visit our website or email us at reach_us@ecvision.com. Thank you.